to tonight's live chat and live stream. I hope that you are all doing well tonight. I am so glad that I'm feeling better. I'm sorry I had to put this off. I have so much information to go over today. So I hope that you are ready to learn. Tonight we are going to be talking about the precession of the stars and the big lies that we are hearing all around. I know I'm hearing it, but that's probably because I follow some channels that are talking about it. And so, I thought I would present this to you guys and see what you guys are hearing. Can you guys hear me okay? I just want to check to make sure everyone can hear me. Do I need to turn my sound up or anything? How's my sound? Can you all hear me? Yes. Okay. Does it sound good? I hope so. All right. Thank you. I know I've had the worst time with microphones, so I hope this one works well. Thank you guys. All right. So I wanted to come to share why I am spending so much time on the luminaries and the precession of the stars situation. And I was going to leave this to the end, but I really want to let you know now that the Father's calendar matters, and that's why it matters to me. And I think that there's a lot that's being hidden. And I'll say right now, I don't know why. I don't know, but I'll show you what is being hidden, and I'm hoping that you are going to fight for the truth with me and bring this to the forefront and let others know that they are being lied to also. So let's dig in, okay? So I have found some really disturbing news in the last few years. So when I started my journey looking into the luminaries, I found that the equinoxes always began in Aries, or the ram. And maybe that's what you've heard. I don't know if that's what you all heard. Do you guys ever remember being told, let's say 10, 15 years ago, that, maybe you didn't even learn about this. I always heard that it was Aries, the ram. I am a Libra. I was born in October. So I was always told that I was a Libra. Now, I don't do horoscopes, so we're not even going to go there. But have you ever been told that you have been given the wrong information about the luminaries? Let me know in the chat. Do you guys ever remember being told that the signs have changed over the years? Yes? No? I wanted to take a look and see if I'm the only one hearing about it. But when I began my journey into looking at the luminaries, everything that I looked at said Aries was the beginning, the spring equinox. And we also learned about, if you've watched my channel, looked at my posts, that there is something called the first point of Aries, and that is usually 0 to 3 degrees. They'll say 0 to 2, but I'm pretty sure it's 3 degrees, and I'll tell you why later. But it's that the equinox shifts into that space around March 20th, but it can shift in there a couple days before or a few days after March 20th, and that is called the first degree of Aries. And you can actually look that up, and I will show you what I found along my journey. But that's what I looked at when I first was getting into all of this and figuring out that the stars meant something. When I was researching, that's what I found, that the spring equinox happens with Aries. So recently, I have found that the lie that I believe is being perpetrated is that the spring equinox is now in Pisces. And so I know you see my posts all the time that I'm posting, it's not in Pisces, it's in Aries. I know. I am sticking with it. And the reason why is because I think that there's a bigger agenda in all of this. So when I began to learn the patterns and the movements and the degrees and the locations of the various stars, and I started reading books, I started getting star finder tools and looking at their uses, and I learned the dates that the sun was moving into those constellations during the year. And yes, it means those dates are very similar to what we see in the horoscope, right? The astrology, right? That's what I've been told, is that's how it shifts through the year, right? So those star finders, if you can print up a little kid star finder. That was the first thing that I did. Was I went online and I found a print your own star finder. You can, there's some really simple ones, and then there's some more advanced ones. But those planispheres, it's called you can star finder or planispheres. You can print really simple ones for your kids, and you can put a little brad in the middle, and you can spin it, and you can go outside and look at that. That's actually the first astrolabe that I had, was a childish little printed planisphere. So those planispheres are correct, right? They are actually really correct. So I bought astrolabes, you know that. I bought a lunar volvel right after that, and I learned about them. I was trying to figure them out. These are these ancient these ancient astrolabes. They've been around for thousands of years, and you should go out and try it yourself. Why are people promoting astrolabes that are based on an ancient tool, in the current time? Why are they telling you and selling it to you to go outside and to observe the stars if it was inaccurate? And, it really got me thinking, what about the stars? How are they included in the Father's clock? And I, started putting all of these puzzle pieces together. Now, not one time in my studies did I hear someone tell me, I've been on my journey for about, 3 years maybe, in terms of the luminaries. Not one time do I remember hearing of a term, precession of the stars. Not one time. And in the last couple of years, I've been hearing it a lot more frequently. And so I want to know what changed. I went back into a lot of the books or online books, I'll say online, all of the articles and documents, again, online, that I originally went to, or at least I think that it looked familiar. And I read up on them again to try to figure out, okay, so is the spring equinox in Aries? Because I'm being told on channels and on websites that it's now Pisces. It shifted a few thousand years ago, and that's news to me. And I went back to those things, those channels, those pages and websites, and lo and behold, on some of those documents at maybe the last line or the last paragraph, it looks, I know I'm a conspiracy theorist, right? But it looks like it's been added. And I thought, well, I don't remember reading that back when I originally started looking into the luminaries. So it looked like there were added sentences. I don't know. And I thought, well, this is very interesting because maybe I just glossed over it. I don't know. And I thought to myself that, well, I'm still seeing that people in the astrology, I get them confused, and I say it wrong at times. The astrology crowd, I didn't know that their signs had changed. I didn't hear that from them. I wasn't hearing some major update that the astrology signs have changed. And so I went back to look at that, and I'm going to show you some very interesting finds that I made. So again, I've noticed some recent changes, and Maybe they shifted a long time ago. Maybe I glossed over it. But what they're telling me is that the equinox changed. And if you were, this is some of, the horoscope kind of pages that I went to. If you were a Capricorn previously, you might be a Sagittarius now because it's shifted. And I thought, well, that's interesting. It shifted. When did this shift happen? Because I know back in the day, before my, pre-Bible years, pre-Yahweh years, I remember looking at horoscopes and I knew what my sign was. So all of my life, I knew I was a Libra. I didn't know it changed. Not that I'm looking at my horoscope, but that would be big news to a lot of people. And I had never heard that, or it's never crossed my path. So I thought I would look into that. And I'm going to show you some really interesting things today. So what happened and what are they hiding with this precession of the stars? Because I think it's a bigger thing than it is. So again, as I said earlier, I don't have the answer. I'm going to say at the end, I still don't know, but I'm going to show you some very interesting tidbits today. So let's take a look. So I have given proof that there isn't a change in the precession of the stars. A lot of my posts that I'm continually posting that I've gone outside and I have verified it. But something that stands out, stands tall, is my first proof. There are these ancient buildings all over the earth that were built to promote the equinoxes and solstices. And guess what? They still work. They're still holding strong at these same sites. Those ones that are still standing, you can still plan a trip and go over there and get your camera ready because the sun's going to come up over the horizon right through that gate. It hasn't changed, right? Okay. So now I'm going to give you some details today, but you've got to stay on as long as you can because the second part of halfway through, you're going to get some really interesting tidbits here. I think you're going to like it. So the first things first is that I went to the Encyclopedia Britannica. How many of you had an encyclopedia at home when you were a kid? I had the whole set, right? I'm sure you all did. I'm aging myself, but that's how we did our homework, folks. So I actually wanted to go back pretty far, and I found an Encyclopedia Britannica 1911 here, and it states, Aries, the ram in astronomy, the first sign of the zodiac denoted by the sign Aries, in imitation of a ram's head. The name is probably to be associated with the fact that when the sun in this part of the heavens in spring, those aren't my parentheses, sheep go bring forth their young. Okay, this is exactly quoted from the Britannica here. Now, same encyclopedia, I went to look up the vernal equinox. Now, it says the vernal equinox is the initial point from which the right ascensions and the longitudes of the heavenly bodies are measured. It is affected by the motions of the precession and nutation, we'll get to that in a minute, of which the former has been known since the time of Hipparchus, and we'll get into him also soon. The actual equinox is defined by first taking the conception of a fictitious point called the mean equinox, which moves at a nearly uniform rate, slow varying, however, from century to century. Okay, that's interesting. The true equinox then moves around the mean equinox in a period equal to that of the moon's nodes. These two motions are defined with greater detail in the articles of precession of the equinoxes and nutation. Again, we'll get to that in just a second. Continues on, it says the idea of tracing the sun's path among the stars was, when it occurred to Chaldean astronomers, an original and relatively to their means a recondite one, we owe to its realization by them the constitution of the nomenclature of the 12 signs of the zodiac. Pretty sure it was pre-Babylon. right? We know that Yahuwah made them, and we know that his Israelites knew all of this information. Assyrian cylinders and inscriptions indicate for the familiar series of our textbooks an antiquity of some 4,000 years, ages before Ashur-bani-pal, Assyria, Babylonian probably, reigned at Nineveh. The 8th month, Marshavan, was known as the month of the star of the scorpion. What do you know? And the 10th, Tebet, belonged to the star of the goat. Sounds very familiar, right? And the 12th, Adar, to the star of the fish, etc., right? We know that as Pisces, right? So they're attributing this to Babylon. We know that this was pre-Babylon. But we also know that they're telling the truth right here. The 8th month does belong to the scorpion, right? Right? And we have the 10th month, Capricorn, and the 12th month, we have Pisces, right? So, interesting. Okay, so what I found here was the precession of the equinoxes and the nutation. So I actually went to look at that, right? And that's actually just a theory. It's based on the, get this, wobbling axis and rotation of the Earth, right? So I don't heed to the pseudoscience nonsense. So I throw that out the door, right? And you're going to hear a lot of nonsense about the precession of the stars has a lot to do with the wobble of the Earth, okay? So they say that the Earth wobbles and changes, and that every 26,000 years our equinox will change, and it will soon be in Aquarius, right? And it also states that the North Pole star Polaris will no longer be our North Star, and it hasn't always been. So as I've mentioned before, there is no other stable, non-moving star in our sky that would fit the bill for a North Star to be able to use it for direction and navigation. The only one that sits there is that Polaris North Star. It's not going to change to another North Star, or else they'd all have to just stop moving, right? So does that make sense to y'all? All right. And if you are thinking that, yeah, Tina, right now we are in Pisces, and pretty soon we're going to be in the age of Aquarius. I also have a short little video on the age of Aquarius nonsense. Again, wobble and tilt of the Earth. It falls into that category. All right, we're going to take a look. So the precession of the equinox that really is happening, that first point of Aries, is actually happening. It does shift, but this shift in the equinox, we know as a shift in the day of the week. And people might argue with me on this one. But if we look at the next few years, I started with 2025, the equinox is on a Thursday. Then it goes to a Friday, a Shabbat, a Monday, a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and a Shabbat. And it keeps rotating. I believe that that has a lot to do with why they're seeing it. And they don't understand Yah's calendar, and so this will never make sense to the everyday person. And I think that this shift that's taking place shows up in the sky. Obviously, it shows up in the sky, and people just don't understand it because they're trying to match it to a Gregorian calendar, not Yah's calendar. So we've seen this equinox shift every year, right? And every year it's going to be on a different day of the week, right? And then what we also know with the Zadok calendar is that we have a leap year, just like the Gregorian calendar, just like a lot of calendars. We have a leap year coming up in 2028. So from 2025 to 2027, all of those equinoxes are in the 3rd week of March, and then it shifts into the next week. So it's actually, the sun is actually making a shift in the sky. Again, I believe it has a lot to do with the first point of Aries. And we know that our Zadok calendar, we go to the Wednesday that is closest to the equinox. So we're going to see a shift, right? But the shift that they're talking about is not what I'm talking about. It's something completely different, and we're going to keep looking. Okay, so we need to be able to have something solid, some evidence to look at to see if there really has been a precession, if the equinox really is in Pisces. And how do we figure that out? Maybe observation. So I have looked at a lot of ancient astrolabes, and I'm going to show you some today. And I've matched them up, and I've matched my own up, and I've even gone to ones that are in other languages and matched them up. And they all say the same story. They're all showing me the same information. And this is a very good, solid evidence. My information based on these astrolabes never match stellarium. And I always encourage you guys to go outside, look up, figure out a few stars. I really only know, I mean, I'm learning, but I know certain ones that I can figure out. Oh, there's Pegasus. By the way, Pegasus is a big square up in the sky, and lately it's been right over to my southwest, about 8 or 9 o'clock. And it's probably moving a little bit farther now that we are farther in our year. But the last time it was a clear sky, which was probably a couple weeks ago, is big. So if you're trying to look for something, find Pegasus. It's a big box in the sky right by Pisces and Aries. And maybe Cassiopeia is out towards the north. So getting to know where a few of them are can help you pinpoint them. And then getting that astrolabe, I'm telling you, it has shown me so much. I've learned so much from these astrolabes. But guess what, folks? They still work. These ancient astrolabes still work perfectly today, right? So again, observation is going to be your best friend in this whole issue, whatever is going on. So there are channels promoting that Abib is in Pisces, not just the equinox, but the entire month of Abib. Now, we have Aries, that 1 to 3 degrees, right? That first point of Aries, and it does shift. So the spring equinox one year might be coming in with Aries. Aries actually might be coming in a day late. The equinox will happen, but Aries is a little behind. Why? Because the sun is shifting. The equinox shifts during the week. So the sun will come up in a different place every year. It's shifting back and forth, folks. That's all it's doing. But they call this a big shift, and they're telling you that the whole month, I'll say channels promoting Zadok calendar, will state that the whole month of Abib is in Pisces now. Why? Because they're listening to NASA-based apps and NASA information. They're not going outside and finding it. I went out with my family. I even posted it. I try to post quite often my observation. Our family goes outside and we look up at the skies and we try to figure things out. And I think I was 2 days past the equinox this year because we had cloudy skies. But you can track it. You can see where it's going. And I was able to show, I saw the equinox. And then that night, I saw I saw that it would have been in Aries. So because, how do you do that? How do you know? It's because when the sun goes down, if you go straight outside and look up, you should see something at a 90-degree, right, from Aries, because Aries just went down over the horizon. If you just look straight up, because maybe you don't have a great view, we don't have the best view looking east, But, you know, we can still look up, get that 90 degrees, get our astrolabe out, match it up and say, "Oh yeah, Aries just went down." You know, if you don't know, this little tool can show you exactly where everything's at. And so observation is huge, but there are these channels that are bringing up information that's stating that the whole month has precessed into Pisces. Again, they're quoting NASA. They're also misinterpreting a couple of men. One is Hipparchus, I read before, and the other one is Ptolemy. And they're making a theory from Hipparchus and Ptolemy. They're making a theory into a fact without testing it. Now, I encourage people to go and read this information, read Ptolemy's work. It might not be up your alley. He's a very smart guy, and part of his writings were way over my head because he's really great at math and I'm not. But it might be in your best interest to at least read some of it. But there's a lot of people who are misinterpreting these two men, and they're also taking their theories and stating it as fact, right? Okay, there's a theory of evolution. There's a theory that we live on a ball, right? But how do we prove them wrong is by observation, right? We need to be science kids again. We need to go back to school and learn how to actually do a science project. I mean, there are steps to a science project. You have a hypothesis, right? You got to test that hypothesis. Observation, folks. All right, so Hipparchus, he was living in the times of, let's see, they don't know when he was born, but he died after 127 BCE. Ptolemy was born around 100 CE and died in 170 CE. The CE stuff is getting to me. How many of you grew up with AD, BC? You know, sometimes. Anyway, both of these men, by the way, were geocentric men. Obviously, most people back then were geocentric. However, many interpretations of their works are being skewed by people who are heliocentrics, and they're trying to manipulate their information to fit their ideology. I'm going to read a little bit on Hipparchus from the Encyclopedia Britannica 2025. Hipparchus, born in Nicaea, Bithynia, was a Greek astronomer and mathematician who made fundamental contribution to the advancement of astronomy as a mathematical science and to the foundations of trigonometry, although he is commonly ranked among the greatest scientists. Let's see here. Hold on just a second. Can you guys see my screen? I have not been showing my screen, so hold on just a second. My goodness. I feel very bad. I am not good at this. Let's try this. I am so sorry, folks. I gotta get used to all of these buttons. Thank you. Sorry. Let me go back real quick here. Let's try this. I'm going to show you guys my previous screen. I read all of this and you guys weren't even seeing it. Sheesh. All right. So, Encyclopedia Britannica, this was the equinox shift. My apologies. So again, I'll go back real quick. So here was 2025, 26, 27, 28. So these were the days of the weeks that it was shifting. Okay, and this is the year that we had the leap. So I just showed you the days of the week that they were shifting. Okay, my apologies, everyone. I should have checked before. So many buttons. Okay, so the astrolabes still work. Okay, we are back to Hipparchus and Ptolemy. All right. Can everybody see that? I hope we're good to go. My husband was listening, so he didn't come up and tell me. He should have told me, honey. He's downstairs. Anyway, come on. All right. So we have Hipparchus. All right. He is a Greek astronomer. I already read that. Although he is commonly ranked among the greatest scientists of antiquity, very little is known about his life, and only one of his many writings is still in existence. Knowledge of the rest of his work relies on second-hand reports, especially in the great astronomical compendium, the Almagest, written by Ptolemy in the 2nd century CE. Yes, he was just listening, G.R. Cleve. I'm sure he's just listening. All right. He's already heard all this before. I even show him the whole presentation before I present it. So anyway, long story short, Hipparchus wasn't really well known except through Ptolemy's work in the 2nd century. And Ptolemy's book is called the Almagest. And I actually read that one. That's the one that has a lot of math way over my head. And I try to make sense of Ptolemy, and he had an astrolabe, everybody. He had an astrolabe, and we'll get to that in just a little bit. Let's see here. So let me get back to my notes. So we have Hipparchus's standing theory that he makes, and we'll talk about that in a moment. He makes a theory in the 1st century BCE, BCE. I got that right that time. And Ptolemy talks about it in the 2nd century. So the running theory states that Hipparchus says that the equinox is most likely going to be shifting. He noticed over a certain amount of time that the equinox was moving slightly. Okay, so he made this theory that there was a movement that he was seeing. And Ptolemy, in his book, The Almagest, also agreed that, yeah, I think there might be some legitimate reasonings behind this, and we're going to call it a precession. And we'll get to that in a second. Again, this was a theory, and Hipparchus's theory states that he believed, with his little mathematical calculations, that the zodiacs would move 1.4 degrees each 100 years. Keep that number in mind, 1.4 degrees each 100 years. And thus, Aries, the zodiac Aries, would be no longer the zodiac for the equinox, but in a few years, it's going to be Pisces. Okay? So people who probably haven't read Hipparchus's work and Ptolemy's work often quote from them, but they have not even read the book, nor have an understanding of their works, their geocentric works, by the way, and they often take them out of context. And Ptolemy just references Hipparchus's work. So what I found interesting about Ptolemy is he said that it almost sounded like he wasn't so sure Hipparchus made the best observations, that he could have been off because he didn't have fancy tools and information that Ptolemy had, because Ptolemy, was, up and coming, right? He was a better astrologer or astronomer, right? So he wasn't fully keen on Hipparchus's work. He didn't just say that he's right, let's everybody follow Hipparchus's work. He didn't say that. He did a lot of calculations and created an idea, a theory, and he said that he could be off. However, he kind of went with it, and I'll get to that in a second. I might be a little bit confusing, but let's get to the next part. So these other channels that are promoting Hipparchus's work and Ptolemy's work are stating that, yep, that 1.4 degrees has already happened. It's been several hundred years, 1,000 years, and you know, it should now be in Pisces. And so there are these channels that are out there that are promoting that the equinox for the whole 30 days, the whole Arabib, what we would call Abib, the third month in the Gregorian calendar, is going to be in Pisces. Now, again, I said that it could be a day or two off based on the week or the year in our cycle, in the 1 to 3 degrees of Aries. It can be off by a small little fraction. But let me tell you, I know I have been following the stars for a couple of years, and I've been able to pinpoint where the sun and the moon are and what constellations they're in. And I know that it didn't progress 1.4 degrees each year because it's still in the same position, and we'll get to that in a moment. So let's see here. Let me get back to my notes. Yeah, so people are just going through and regurgitating things. So is the equinox in Aries or Pisces? How are you going to know? Are you going to trust me? I don't want you to trust me. That's why I'm really encouraging everyone to go out and get a tool, not a NASA-based app. Get tools. Because why? Because you aren't familiar with the stars, or maybe you are. Maybe I don't know if there are any people on my channel who have all of the stars memorized and know where they're all at. I still have a hard time trying to figure out the opposite. I know Aries and Libra are opposite, but sometimes I have to go back and look, okay, on the wheel and say, okay, oh, these two are the opposites, because I'm still new. But what I use is my Astrolabe and my lunar Volvel, and it gets me in the right direction. So, is the equinox in Aries or Pisces? I'm telling you today, again, my observations shows Aries. Is Abib in Aries or Pisces? I'm going to tell you it's in Aries, and I have observed it. And I want you guys to go do this same thing. And don't let people regurgitate stuff to you. I know there are great people out there, great Torah keeping channels, great Zadok calendar keeping channels. And what's interesting is they're often flat earthers, biblical cosmology, and they don't trust NASA for something, but yet they're going to trust NASA for this information. You guys got to go outside, live a little, get back, get your kids out there, make it an adventure, teach them, right? So go outside. All right, here is Ptolemy's model of the movements of the stars. And I call them the wandering stars. He actually does call them the planets. And he goes through and he shows that all of these planets, these wandering stars, each have a route that they take. I don't know if you guys have ever seen this, but if you look at these are the routes that all of these wandering stars make. And I'm telling you, it's beautiful. Let me read this from the Almagest. It's a weird word, but so this is a Ptolemy quote. It says, "We call the first division beginning at the spring equinox and going towards the rear with respect to the motion of the universe, Aries. The second, Taurus, and so on for the rest, in the traditional order of the 12 signs." What do you know? Ptolemy is stating that Aries is the first sign, right? Okay, so this is his model, and he made the observations. A lot of astronomers have gone out and made the observations, and this is indeed a fact. This is a fact. This is not a theory. This is, I've seen some really beautiful pictures of these patterns, and I don't know, it resonates with me. I don't know about you, but I think it's beautiful. So Ptolemy's book, he's when he's referring to the precession, he's actually, I'll show you in a second on the astrolabe, but he is actually referring to how this is called the ecliptic, and that is this part on your astrolabe, right? This is the ecliptic. This is where the wandering stars are and how they're moving through every day, okay? The ecliptic. And the precession that he talks about has a lot to do with the movement of the stars in the ecliptic. And let me go to my next slide here. So here is a quote from Hipparchus and Ptolemy. It says, first then, this is this is Ptolemy talking about Hipparchus's work. And this is the Almagest, chapter 7. And it says, first then, no change has taken place in the relative position of the stars, even up to the present time. Did you guys see that? No change, right? On the contrary, the configurations observed in Hipparchus's time are seen to be absolutely identical to now. I pause again. This is true not only of the positions of the stars in the zodiac relative to each other, or the stars outside the zodiac relative to the other stars outside the zodiac, which would still be the case if only stars in the vicinity of the zodiac had a rearward motion, as Hipparchus proposes in the first hypothesis he puts forward. But it is also true of the positions of the stars in the zodiac relative to those outside, even those at considerable distances. This can easily be seen by anyone who is willing to make an inspection, that's what I'm telling you guys to do, of the matter and examine, in the spirit of love, the love of truth, whether present phenomena agree with those recorded for Hipparchus's time. So he's even telling you guys to go outside and look at this. So he's talking about the findings, and he's mentioning Hipparchus's intention were the best. You know, he gave his theory, but he is stating a couple of times here that no change has been made. So I find that very interesting. Let's take a look at the next one. We find thus that their distances relative to each other are again very nearly the same as those observed by Hipparchus, but their individual distances from the solstical or equinoctial points are in each case about 2 to 2/3 or 2 2/3 farther to the rear than those derivable from what Hipparchus recorded. So he's stating that he is showing a slight shift. Now, he's not stating a precession, and I'll get into that in a second. So we thought it appropriate in making our observations and records of each of the above fixed stars and of the others too, to give their positions. So here's Ptolemy stating, hey, we're charting down all of this information to see what we get and if it matches Hipparchus's information. And as observed in our time, in terms of longitude and latitude, not with respect to the equator. So here's not with respect to the equator. This is that equinox line. But with respect to the ecliptic. So there's a difference between the equator and the ecliptic, as determined by the great circle drawn through the poles of the ecliptic and each individual star. In this way, in accordance with the hypothesis of their motion established above, their positions in latitude with respect to the ecliptic must necessarily remain the same. Again, he's using the word same, while their positions in longitude must always traverse equal arcs toward the rear in equal time. So he's saying they are going to stay on their same path, right? So he is stating here in this chapter 7 here, he's actually talking about Spica, and he's notating that this is in a slightly different spot. Now, it's not in a different spot from the equinox or the equator line, not the equinox, but the equator line. But he's saying that there has been a shift in the ecliptic, okay? There is a difference. And again, we're going to see that with the changes in the equinox through the week. Now, these gentlemen, let's see here, the gentlemen who are speaking here, Hipparchus and Ptolemy, are not following Yah's calendar. They do not know the Zadok luminary calendar, so they don't understand the change and the leap every 7th year. They don't understand that depending on the year in the series, what we know is what we call it the priestly cycle, and the leap years, they don't know that there is a shift like we do. So they're trying to make sense of this. Okay, so from Hipparchus's year to Ptolemy's year, we don't know what year they were in that priestly cycle. We don't know what year they were taking the observations. I don't know exactly if Hipparchus mentioned it. I could go back and check on that, but it does make a difference what sky they're looking at and what what cycle they were in the priestly cycle. Okay, let me go next here. Here is Ptolemy's chapter 7 continued, and he is going to talk about this, and I'm going to go through this real quick. He says, to illustrate this procedure by a single example, in the 2nd year of Antonius of Parmuthi in the Egyptian calendar, so these are the translators' input here. They're telling us, they're helping me. I don't have to look it up. Year 139, February 23rd, when the sun was just about to set in Alexandria, and the last degree of Taurus was culminating. 5.5 equinoctial hours after noon on the 9th, we observed the apparent distance of the moon from the sun, which was sighted about Pisces 3 degrees. And then half an hour later, the sun now having set, and the first quarter of Gemini culminating. The apparent moon was sighted in the same position with respect to the astrolabe ring. Okay, the ring. And the star on the heart of Leo, or Regulus, had an apparent distance from the moon as measured by the means of the other astrolabe ring of 57 1/6 toward the rear along the ecliptic. I know this is a lot. Hang with me. Now, at the first observation, the true position of the sun was very nearly Pisces, 3 1/20, hence the apparent position of the moon, since it was 92 1/8 toward the rear of the sun, approximately, he gets really technical, right? Approximately 5 1/6, and he's using his astrolabe, folks, which is also the position it ought to occupy. It ought to, right? He's like, this is where it should be, according to our hypothesis. Half an hour later, the moon should have moved about 1/4 degree towards the rear and have a parallax in advance relative to the first situation about 1/12 degree. Therefore, the apparent position of the moon half an hour later was 5 1/3. Hence, the star on the heart, here's Regulus, here's Leo, right here is Regulus. Star on the heart, since its apparent distance from the moon was 57 1/6 to the rear, had a position of Leo, and its distance for the summer solstice was 32.5 degrees. Okay, I know that was long, but I want to show you that I'm not just skimming an article and giving you information. I went through this, and then I went into one of my new favorite websites, alexboxer.com, I believe. I should have it memorized by now, but I have it posted on my website. So you can take an astrolabe online. You can plug in the date. So here I am plugging in 139 right here, February 23rd, and the sun was setting. I'm setting up exactly what he has here in the astrolabe. And he states that Leo, his heart, Regulus, is just coming up over the horizon. Guess what, folks? here is the sun going down, and here is Leo coming up over the horizon. Well, guess what? February 23rd, Leo should be just coming up over the horizon even today. I'm just going to say, here is Ptolemy saying, yep, it's just in the right place according to our hypothesis. This is exactly where we thought it was going to be. So it's telling you that and I like this app. Again, it tells you where the wandering stars are, it tells you where the sun is, and it tells you where the moon is. It tells you everything that you really need to know. It shows you all these wandering stars. These are all these little things that obviously your astrolabe doesn't have them. And then it tells you all the distances. It's really helpful, really handy. So you can go back in time. So here is Ptolemy showing a date of February 23rd, 139. You can plug it in yourself. And case in point is that February 23rd, it came up for Ptolemy just the same, and it came up for me just the same when I plugged in a February 23rd, 2025 or 2026. This looks the same, okay? So, and then here we have a last little quote here. This is actually from the translator's note from Ptolemy's book. It says, note that the position, which in modern terminology is, here we go, folks, precession of the equinoxes, i.e., a motion in the direction of decreasing longitudes of the tropical points. Keep this in mind, tropical points, with respect to the fixed stars, is described by Ptolemy as a motion of the fixed stars with respect to the tropical points in the direction of increasing longitudes. This accords with taking the tropical points as the primary reference points. Hipparchus, however, seems at times to have adopted the modern convention to judge from the title of his work on the displacement of the solstical and the equinoctial points. Okay, so all that to say is that if you look at an astrolabe, just like I showed you a little bit ago, this piece here is the ecliptic or the star chart. This is where it lists all of the zodiacs all up here, and you can move this part. This part moves. So you move this on the plate, okay? This is what he's talking about, is the precession. This is moving. It's not changing at the equinox points. The rete is changing. The star chart is shifting slightly. But he's noticing that all of those same stars that he was expecting to come up came up. Okay, so keep that in mind. And also keep in mind that Hipparchus and Ptolemy, they didn't do a long study. This study needs to be done, a long study, not just going out a couple nights in a year and calling it good, right? A long study needs to be done. And if they would have kept that long study going, they would have realized that it wasn't going to shift 1.4 degrees every 100 years. Okay, so here is another reference in Ptolemy's book, translated in the 1500s, by the way. And it says, the third observation was taken by this same man, so Johann Schooner, in the same year, 1504, on the 15th day before the calends of April. Any of you know what calends of April means? It means 15 days before the first day of April, at which time he found Mercury at 26 degrees of Aries with a northern latitude of approximately 3 degrees, while 25 degrees of Cancer was in the middle, keep that in mind, of the heavens over Nuremberg, as seen through an astrolabe, brought into relation with Hyades at 2 o'clock, or sorry, it says at 2 hours after midday, which is 2 o'clock, at which time the mean position of the sun away from the spring equinox was 5 degrees and 39 feet of Aries, and an evening alchemy was 21 degrees and 17 feet away from the sun. I know some of you are like, oh, this is way over my head. But again, I want to give you guys proof. So here is a man named Johann Schooner. Okay, he is helping with the translation of Ptolemy's book, and he wanted to go out and test this himself in 1504. So, first of all, again, as I pointed out earlier, Ptolemy believed that the Aries was the spring equinox, the constellation that held the spring. Okay, and he says this in his book many, many, many times. All right, so he also notes that there is something called the first point of Aries. He talks about that, right? And he talks about a shift. He's talking about a precession, but that precession is talking about the tropics. You guys know what the tropics are? The Tropic of Cancer and the Tropic of Capricorn. They're stating that this precession is a slight shift in the tropics. It's not making a change with the equinox, even though the theory of Hipparchus was made that, okay? So let's see here. I have on this screen, I did the same thing I did before. You go over here and you type in the date, March 17th, 1504. And what I did was I took a look and to make sure that this information matched. So everyone, where is Cancer on the ecliptic here? He's stating that Cancer is in the middle of the heavens in Nuremberg. Well, look, here's Cancer. Is it in the middle of the heavens? Now, if you're not familiar with the astrolabe, here's Polaris. Your north is the little circle. You can change for your latitude. In the circle, this particular person would have to look literally straight up to see Cancer. And guess what? He said, Cancer is in the middle of our heavens in Nuremberg. Okay? So this astrolabe is able to match. But if you have your astrolabe right now, all you have to do is go put March 17th in and see where Cancer is in your screen. Okay, go take a look. You can prove the same information. So here is Mr. Schooner trying to prove Ptolemy's information. He's like, he's saying, I want to test Ptolemy's information. And guess what? Mr. Schooner went out and found the same thing Ptolemy did. So was there a change between Ptolemy's time and Mr. Schooner's time? Nope. There's no shift in the equinox. It's still in Aries at this point. Okay, so by this time, the equinox should have shifted at least 5 degrees by Mr. Schooner's time. Okay, so I find it just really hysterical that Ptolemy lived before the 3rd century, yet we all, most of us, some of us, have astrolabes made in current time with the same information on it, and there's not one iota of a change, that the equinox has not shifted. All of these in the ecliptic are still showing up at the same spot. So again, if you have an astrolabe, go plug in this date onto your astrolabe, and you're going to have Cancer right at depends on your latitude a little bit, but Cancer should be in this spot. I guess if you're in the southern hemisphere, it'd probably be the opposite, right? Okay, the other thing I wanted to point out was that he is talking about Hyades, I believe that's pronounced, at 2 o'clock at midday. So let me see, here's my screenshot here. So I plugged it in at 2 o'clock. And guess where Hyades is? Hyades is actually in Taurus. And so, where is Taurus on the ecliptic? So we have Pisces, right? We have Aries, and then we have Taurus. Look, Hyades at 2 o'clock is in the middle of the sun and the sky. Sun and the sky. Both of them are in the middle of the sky at 2 o'clock. And guess what? This matches. If you were to go and put March 17th 2 o'clock and you lived close by, you might actually have the same reading on your astrolabe today. It's not going to be any different. And then, let me see here. Then he goes on to talk about the fact that, I'm going to read it actually. Moreover, this, as the ecliptic is oblique to the axis of the sphere, it makes various angles with the horizon. For we have already said in the case of the differences of the shadows that 2 opposite degrees of the ecliptic pass through the axis of the horizon of those who live between the tropics. So here's the tropics coming up again. But I think it will be sufficient for our purpose if we demonstrate the angles which we, the Heterocean's inhabitants, find. By means of these angles, the universal ratio of them may easily be understood. Accordingly, I think it is clear enough that in the oblique sphere, when the equinox or the beginning of Aries, folks, you see this? Equinox or the beginning of Aries is rising. The more the greatest southward declination decreases, and the declination is measured from the beginning of Capricorn, which is in the middle of the heavens at this time. The more ecliptic is inclined and verges towards the horizon. So, folks, are a couple of things in this. He's talking about this date, and what is he saying? Let me go back up here. He's stating that the Capricorn is going to be in the middle of the heavens at this time. Does that agree? 1504. Capricorn right here. It's in the middle of the heavens. So this is a little better view. Here's the Polaris, North Pole. This is where that person lived. And he says that Capricorn is in the middle of the sky. And that is accurate. Okay, so what do we do with this? We want to test it, right? So, I think I have some notes here. Yeah, my notes, sorry, I had to go back to my notes for a second. So, if there was a precession of the equinoxes, there would have been a whole shift in this ecliptic. Okay, we would see evidence of a change from the 2nd century to today. And again, I've shown you guys many of my observations in the skies that validate the astrolabe, right? And so if you go online, and I know I have an astrolabe playlist, but if you go online and look up astrolabe and try to learn about them, every tutorial will tell you, hey, yeah, you do this, this, and this, and you'll be able to go outside and match up this and do this. They're telling you that it still works. These astrolabes still work. Not one of them tell you that, oh, you can't use these astrolabes because they're out of date. They were made 1,000 years ago, and that information has changed. No, they're all telling you, all these tutorials, all these videos, all these demonstrations that I have watched tell us the same thing, except for, maybe those people who haven't actually gone out and tested it, by the way. But these ancient tools still have accurate information. Johann in 1504 got the same thing Ptolemy got, right? You can pinpoint everything just as they did 1,900 years ago. Even 3,000 years ago, this information is going to line up today, just like it did. It has not changed. That's what I'm trying to show you guys. This is old information. This is Ptolemy stuff. This is the book that notes from 1504 when it was translated. Have they changed since then? Observation. Use your astrolabe. Go online. If you don't have an astrolabe yet, go online to these tools. And again, they're on my resource page. You can play around with them. But I'm telling you, you can put in different dates and then put your date in it, and you're going to come up with almost identical. Okay? So I encourage you to see this change from Hipparchus's time. Ptolemy said, oh, it's about the same, right? And this Johann schooner came up with the same information. I come up with the same information. Don't you think that it should have changed by now, right? So let me see here. Oh, yes. The next slide here, it's if you imagine that we are in a Pisces start, for example. If, and I'm telling you, if this Johann schooner went outside and there was a shift, he probably would have seen not Capricorn up at the top. He would have seen, so all I did was I put it in February 17th. So I put it to a, when the sun is in Pisces. So I can show you if there was a precession, what Mr. Johann would have seen in the sky. He would have seen Sagittarius in the middle of the sky, not Capricorn. Okay, but he's telling us Capricorn is there, which is correct for the time that he is presenting. So I tested our current Aries Pisces dates and completely matched the skies from Ptolemy's notations with the translator Johann's information from 1500, and I matched it with the astrolabe. So here I have 15 days before the calends of April, or April 1st, in 2025. And guess what is in my sky? So this is 2025, an Aries start. The sun is in Aries. Am I matching Johann's information and Ptolemy's information? Yep, Capricorn's in the middle of my sky. If we had a Pisces start, so all I did was I moved the sun into Pisces. If we had a Pisces start in 2025, would we see Capricorn in the middle of our sky? No, it would be over here in this area. So see, I'm trying to show you that the current Aries dates match the skies and everything that Ptolemy told us and everything that Johann schooner saw. So I hope I don't want to be a record on repeat, but I'm trying to show that there is a need for us to go outside. There is a need for us to make physical observations, not just sitting at a computer or using our phone apps. Yes, I use a star app. I think it's called Sky Tonight or something like that, only so that I can help myself in looking for the shapes of certain constellations or stars, because I can't identify them. However, the Sky Tonight and Stellarium apps aren't accurate. I have proven them false so many times. So I just want to show you guys that through the ages, Hipparchus and Ptolemy's theory did not hold true. I hope I've made that point. I know I read a lot of jibber jabber, but I hope that I've made my point that it has not shifted 1.4 degrees every 100 years. So according to NASA, they're telling us that we are a month behind, folks. A month. They're telling us that our whole Abib, well, they're not telling us our Abib, but they're telling us from middle of March to middle of April, the sun is in Pisces. Okay? Because they're talking about a wobble. They're talking about Ptolemy. They're getting you off track, and I have been able to prove it, but I can't do it on my own. I need you guys to do it. And why is it important? Because we're trying to get the calendar back. We're trying to get Yah's calendar back. So I have found various astrolabes, I told you that earlier, from many countries. And yes, they reveal the same information through the last 2,000 years. And we know that Ptolemy had an astrolabe in 100 CE. So we know that they were using astrolabes as early as that period, right? and we can go back in time, and I'm sure that there are other maybe you have documents from another country. Perhaps another country has more information. The earliest one that I could find was 9th century Syria. I'm sure there's more, but I've seen some that are earlier. Not seen, but I've read about them, but I haven't seen them. So here is a 9th century Syrian one, 10th century Guadalajara, 11th century Spain, and two 16th century European ones. Now, I have actually gone in with translators, little translate, copy, paste into a translator, and these all share the same information. Every country, every region, every astrolabe maker has their unique style. They're so beautiful, and they end up pointing to most of the same stars. They point to the ones that are the brightest, and so the ones that are easiest to find. But then they might have, based on their location, they might have a couple more stars on their little, finder on their ecliptic than we do. And then they're very fancy, very beautiful. But again, they haven't changed. These all have March 20th as the equinox. None of them have changed since the 9th century, since Ptolemy's time, obviously. 9th century, 10th century, these all have Aries start. So you would think that if a precession had happened after Ptolemy's time, you would think that it would have changed by now. The astrolabe makers would have changed by now, right? So let's see here. I'm going to look at my notes here, make sure I'm not missing anything. Yeah, so again, a lot of Ptolemy and Hipparchus' stuff is obviously misunderstood, mistranslated, twisted around because they have their heliocentric ideas. But there's also a lot of people who are genuine people, but they're trying to drop names using fuzzy interpretations and opinions, but they're not actually reading the books themselves. They're not actually trying to configure what's going on. Most people that I've seen who've tried to talk about Ptolemy and Hipparchus don't even own an astrolabe, never even tested their information, not even gone outside. We need to go outside. So, don't trust a theory until it's proven factual. Someone not versed in the luminaries or the astrolabe will not understand the Almagest, and they're just going to regurgitate what they heard. Okay? So, anyway, hold on to your seats because we're going to switch gears for a little bit. This is an exciting feat here. This is what I really wanted to show. So I had actually pre-recorded all of this and found some new information. So I was going to re-record it, and then I thought, oh, I'll just go live with this information because I really was excited about this. So have you guys heard anything about the equinoxes shifting again? Have you heard through the grapevine by maybe some news articles that maybe we're seeing different stars out? Are we being told that Aries is no longer in the, the equinox is no longer in Aries and the stars are shifting their patterns? Again, I didn't really see any articles, but something came across my lap a couple of weeks ago and I went down a rabbit hole. So, since starting the channel, I have shown you a lot of misinformation that we're being given. And I'm showing you these astronomical tools that are going to help you because you're going to need it, especially for what I'm about to give you. This information from NASA is about to blow your mind. So, they're telling a story about the eclipses, and it has to do with the equinox, and it has to do with the precession of the stars. Okay? There is an inconsistency that I caught, and I want you guys to see it. And it's definitely something fishy. Okay? In 2024, I want hands up, thumbs up, or a number 1 if you guys remember the eclipse in 2024. Did anybody go out and see the eclipse in 2024? Any thumbs up? All right, I'm waiting. Anybody see the eclipse 2024? Okay. It's going to take a little while. Okay, so in 2024, the eclipse that happened, you're not going to believe some of the articles that I found about the eclipse. So here is my study. I was studying the precession of the equinox, and this came up. I'm going to take a drink real quick. Hold on just a second. You guys all recognize this news, right? Let me see if this, yep, it's a little delayed. I don't know why. I am very delayed. Okay. You guys recognize this, right? Let's read this article. Why the sun will be in the wrong star sign during the total solar eclipse. I thought that was very interesting since I am on the topic of the star signs changing, right? Right. Let's read it. Astrologers will make money from April 8th's total solar eclipse, but they may end the day wondering what to believe. So, folks, I should have told you this was March 27, 2024. After presumably confusing astronomy and astrology, and then being forced to run with it, marketing majors are this month busily sending press releases to journalists with refrains like, "The stars are aligned," while detailing eclipse viewing events on April 8th. Some promise tarot card readers and tooth gem vendors. Others, the chance to embrace changes and new beginnings during the immersive astrological experience. However, Western astrologers could be in for a nasty shock on April 8th when the sun appears in the wrong zodiac, in the wrong sign of the zodiac. Astrologically significant? Despite simply being little more than a line-of-sight phenomenon, solar eclipses are apparently astrologically significant. And this one certainly will be to any believer in astrology who actually looks at the sky and the stars during totality. Astrologers and everyone else within the path of totality, a 115-mile wide shadow of the moon sweeping across parts of 15 U.S. states on April 8th, will experience darkness in the day and see a totally eclipsed sun. For up to 4 minutes and 26 seconds, stars will be visible. All right, folks, here we go. But for a believer in astrology's point of view, they will be the wrong stars. Note, this article only applies to those that are in the path of totality. That's interesting. Why does it matter if you're in the line of the path of totality for viewing the wrong stars? If you are not within the path of totality, which you can check on this interactive map, this eclipse simulator, and in this eclipse lookup, then you will see just a partial solar eclipse, which requires solar safety glasses at all times and is not rare or unusual. Yes, the eclipse is only in a certain path of totality, but they're making it seem like only those people see something different. Stars during totality. Any earnest belief in traditional star birth signs and horoscopes cannot survive seeing the actual sky during totality on April 8th. In Western astrology, astrological signs consist of 12 constellations, each 30 degrees. All star signs are signs of the zodiac constellations on the ecliptic, a line in the sky that the sun appears to follow. Where the sun was when you were born is your star sign. If you were born on April 8th, you're in Aries. What do you know? According to Western astrology, everyone born March 21st and April 19th is in Aries. Or born between, sorry. Look at the stars during the totality on April 8th, and you will see that the sun will be not in Aries, but in Pisces. Here you go. This is NASA, folks. It's supposed that if you were born between February 19th and March 20th, you're a Pisces. But the sun is within that constellation's boundaries between March 11th and April 18th. Astrology is mainly about convenience, not accuracy, but a month out? Very interesting, right? It mostly means that people are not the star sign they think they are. They're the one that comes before. Western astrology no longer relates to what's happening in the sky, which is odd, given that it concerns relationship between constellations, stars, and planets. Still, there's a fascinating astronomical reason for that. Precession. The Earth's precession explained. There is no need to get too judgmental about astrology. It is, after all, at the root of modern astronomy, albeit centuries ago. The Babylonians, living 2,500 years ago in Iraq and Syria, first divided the sky into the zodiac. Again, we've heard that before, right? Regurgitating. Since then, Earth has precessed. Precession is a natural process lasting 25,800 years that sees the Earth's wobble on its axis, rather like a spinning top, because of the moon's gravitational influence, of course. The result is that the North Star and the equinox points constantly change, do they? In short, the apparent positions of the stars have shifted west. Here's a list of the star signs, the signs of the zodiac, with their traditional dates in Western astrology and the actual dates that the sun is within their boundaries each year. So they just go on, they say, traditional February 19th through March 20th. The actual, it's changed now, right? Traditional for Aries, March 21 to April 19th. Now it's changed a month out, right? Okay. What do you guys think about that one? So, with that in mind, I'm going to bring you to my next page here. So, what I did was I went to see what was being said about the 2017 eclipse. Guess what? Guess what's missing? There is no mention of seeing incorrect constellations, folks. Okay, let's take a look. Let me see here. Come on. Here we go. Sorry, it's taking a moment. Oh boy, let's see here. So yes, I had to use Wikipedia, but let's take a look at what this says. Solar eclipse of August 21st, 2017. Okay, I remember where I was. I don't know about you all, but let's see what this says. The solar eclipse of August 21st, 2017, dubbed the Great American Eclipse by some media, was a total solar eclipse visible within a band that spanned the contiguous United States from the Pacific to the Atlantic coast. Okay, right? Okay, go on here and let me see here. Oh, I don't think I saved it. Hold on a second. Hold on. Let's see. Oh, wait. Did I see it? Hold on just a moment. Technical issues here. Yeah, okay. There we go. I thought I saw it. So I skipped down here to other celestial bodies. It says, during the eclipse, for a long span of its path's totality, several bright stars and 4 planets were visible. The star system Regulus was almost in conjunction with the sun. So if you guys know what conjunction means, it means it's in alignment. So it means it's in with the same vicinity, the same zodiac. Okay, so it says the star system Regulus was almost in conjunction with the sun. Mars was 8 degrees to the right, Venus 34 degrees to the right, Mercury was 10 degrees to the left, and Jupiter 51 degrees to the left. Okay, keep this in mind. Now remember, the 2024 eclipse, they said everything was shifted. You're not going to see the sun in the proper location. But they're telling us here for 2017 that there is a conjunction of Regulus and the sun, right? Regulus and the sun. Keep that in mind. Here's Regulus, remember? Well, I think I forgot to change that. Regulus is in the heart of the lion. Okay. Regulus is in Leo. So this eclipse, August 21st, 2017, August 21st, was our 5th month. Folks, what is the constellation for the 5th month? Where should the sun be in the 5th month? Anybody? It should be in Leo. The sun and Leo should be in conjunction. And guess what? It's actually correct. It was in Leo in 2017. So, for those insisting that Pisces is our Abib, this would not work. This article just proved my, yes, somebody said Mandela effect. Kind of, sort of, yeah, something's up, let me tell you. So I just showed you 2 eclipses. Here is the August 21st, 2017 eclipse on the Astrolabe. We have the sun and the moon in Leo. See, L-E-O, there's Leo. Guess what? They're in conjunction. So, from 2017 eclipse, when everything is in the right working proper place, what happened in 2024, folks? Tell me, how did the sun appear in the wrong sign in 2024, but yet it was in the right place in 2017? This is amazing because I was able to prove that there has not been a shift, folks. There has not been a shift. So again, you can go and test this for yourself on an astrolabe, your own astrolabe if you want. But I just showed you August should be Leo, our 5th month. That's where it all should be. But apparently, people didn't see the sun in the right sign in 2024. What happened? Why was it correct 8 years ago, but not 1 year ago? This is the mystery, folks. We are living in strange times. This is what I keep trying to put forward to you all. There's something nefarious. It's not making sense to me. And this was an amazing find. I found this, 2 weeks ago, perhaps? I was just so blown away. This helps. This helps me prove this to you. But again, you need to go outside. Look up, right? Okay, so I looked at the precession of the equinoxes in the Encyclopedia Britannica, and I found this is the online version. And I found they made the initial entry in 1998. And then there are some major changes being done to this page alone. Now, unfortunately, I can't see what was said and verify what was in there originally, but look at what happened to precession of the equinoxes. Let's see. Somebody added a link, so they give you the name of the person who's making the change and the date it was changed. Somebody added a website, and guess what? Naval research, observing the sky precession of the equinox. Okay. Then the next person goes in and changes the precession period. So here we go. Some period was changed from 26,000 years to 25,772 years. That's actually a big difference when you're talking about something that should be only changing 1.4 degrees each 100 years. But it must have changed. Look at that. And then they go into making other changes. Here's University of British Columbia, the math department, of course, talking about the equinoxes. And then something was changed in 2022. So here's that 2017 precession of the equinoxes. And then look at all these changes before 2024 came along, right? Precession of the equinoxes. I wonder what was revised and updated, folks. Okay. So online data can be manipulated. They're changing things left and right. I told you when I initially went and looked at all of this stuff, I never even heard of precession of the equinoxes. And I'm sure things are being updated and added, and that's why it's important to get handheld copies of things, folks. So they are updating links, they're updating information. Who's inputting this information? One of these people, I didn't make it a link, but one of these people is from NASA, folks. Okay, so yes, we need to put on our tinfoil hats when we're looking this information up. Don't trust everything you read. I used to trust Encyclopedia Britannica. Not anymore. I mean, how many of you feel like it's the 1984, right? Yes, hard copies of Bibles too. I saw that. Yes, Bibles, the same thing. But it feels like 1984. It feels like things are being changed right up underneath us. And I believe that's exactly what's happening. Okay. I still have more exciting information. So I interrupt this message to bring you some more breaking news. So I had already recorded some of this, but I found even more exciting information. Are you guys ready? Let's take a look. So I've been scouring the web looking for information associated with all of these zodiac changes, right? I've been looking to see when and where things started to turn awry, started to change. And where is this confusion coming from that we don't even know what the equinox is in? Is it in Aries or Pisces? Why is there so much confusion? It's because of this. And I'm going to show you guys here. And we need to figure out who we're going to believe and who's lying, who's telling the truth. Okay, again, I tell you all, test me also. Here is, you guys recognize today, right? And I found this. I'm just taking clips, folks. You can do the same thing. It says, your life is a lie. Really? Yeah. The zodiac has changed. Here is your new sign. The astrological signs have shifted according to a blog post from NASA, of course. Here are the new zodiac sign dates to use for your next horoscope. So this was September of 2016. And this was, I think it was the same, yeah, it was the same article. And it said, let me take a drink, folks. Hold on just a second. Okay. And it says, NASA broke the news early this year. Remember, this is 2016. NASA broke the news early this year in a blog post, of course, that explained that when ancient Babylonians created the zodiac they created it, over 3,000 years ago, they wanted dates on the calendar to correspond with star constellations. What do you know? But there were 13 constellations, and they were working with a 12-month calendar, so they ditched Ophiuchus. I don't know how you all pronounce it. Okay, so yes, there is another side constellation, but it's not part of the zodiac. It's not part of the ecliptic. I guess it is. It's kind of within the ecliptic, but it is not to be considered a 13th zodiac, folks. But they're going to pull a lie on you. It says NASA also pointed out that the Earth's axis doesn't even point in the same direction as it did when the original constellations were drawn. Oh, who drew them up, folks? So all of our signs have different date ranges now anyway. This is the weird stuff, folks. This is the weird stuff. And then I found, I was just going everywhere. This is the website, and it said NASA. So this is an astrological website. And it says, NASA was recently forced to tweet about the fact that it hasn't changed any astrological signs. Pause. It hasn't changed any astrological signs. Then we just said it did. NASA broke the news. The organization stated, no, we did not change the zodiac signs. When the Babylonians invented the constellation 3,000 years ago, they chose to leave out the 13th sign. So we did the math. Okay. Interesting. Okay. Now, I want to bring this up, and of course, my tabs never open up when I want them to. So let's bring this up here. Close. Here is something else I found. NBC Chicago, folks, right here, Chicago. Did your zodiac sign actually change? What to know after recent reports. So again, why do you guys think people are confused? It's because they're being given this information over and over again. But guess who's promoting all of this stuff? NASA, news channels, very interesting. So, kind of goes through the same stuff. Talks about, did your zodiac sign actually change? A recent New York Times report indicates zodiac signs may be out of date, and your sign may not be what you think. But what's the reasoning behind it? And then it goes on to say the same stuff that we read before, but I just wanted to show you who else is promoting this information. And then, yes, author of confusion again. Here we go. Here's another set of information, just clips that I found, folks. Astrological signs have not changed. So come on, right? So, which is it? Has our astrological sign changed? Astrological signs have not changed due to the shift of the Earth's position. The tropical zodiac, which is used in Western astrology, is based on the seasons and does not account for the constellation's position. The sidereal zodiac, used in Indian or Vedic astrology, is based on the actual points of the constellations and adjusts the signs accordingly. This means that while the signs may differ, the underlying principles of astrology remain unchanged. That's okay. All right. Western astrology is based on the tropical zodiac. Where have we heard that before? Which is fixed to the seasons and to the equinoxes and solstices, not to the shifting positions of the constellations. Interesting. And then here is, again, another probably popular, I believe it's a magazine or news place, Western versus Sidereal Astrology. It is also worth noting that there are different systems of astrology. Two of the most well-known are tropical astrology and sidereal. So same thing, same information. Tropical astrology, used in most of the Western world, anchors signs to the equinoxes and solstices. Okay. Sidereal astrology, used in systems like Vedic astrology, anchors signs to the stars themselves. In sidereal astrology, the sun's position does shift with the precession. Very interesting. Okay. Let's take a look here. I have another, of course, not opening up where I want you to open up. So hold on just a second. Here's another one. Yes, these are astrological channels, right? But I'm telling you, sometimes you gotta dig deep. Facts about the tropical astrology that you should know. What does tropical mean in astrology? The planets, stars, and the sun move around certain paths called constellations. Ancient astronomers recorded these movements in the 12 zodiac signs. The divisions of the zodiac signs is what we call tropical astrology. Now let's take those 12 zodiac signs and group them according to the seasons that they coincide with. The cardinal signs are Aries, Cancer, Libra, Capricorn, and they coincide with the beginnings of the seasons. So we know those as our what? 1st, 4th, 7th, 10th months, folks, right? Cardinal signs, right? And then we have the fixed signs, and they go on to that, right? And they're talking about tropical astrology. They are symbolic association. We don't obviously do the astrology part, but it talks about the starting point, the vernal equinox. The spring equinox is the point where the sun crosses the equator, right? Good. We're good with that. We agree, folks, on some astrology. We all agree because they actually have their dates are pretty accurate compared to our, with our calendar. So is tropical zodiac wrong? There have been recent concerns on tropical astrology. NASA announced, here guys, look, in 2016 that there is a change in the zodiac astrology because of the shift of the Earth's axis. According to NASA, that 3,000 years since the creation of the zodiac system, really? The North Pole is now pointing in a different direction. We've heard this before. The same information is just being regurgitated. See what I'm seeing? This is the author of confusion. So let me go back here. Okay, so they're talking about the tropical and sidereal, and what I find interesting is that they're saying that the tropical doesn't shift, and then they're saying that it does shift. Certain things shift. They're going back and forth with definitions and causing more confusion. And some websites will say that the tropical doesn't shift. Some say that it does. When you research online, you're getting back and forth. Some astrological websites say, yes, your sign has changed. Other ones are saying, no, we don't follow NASA. We're not changing because NASA decided to add the 13th sign or something like that. So it's a back and forth. Okay. Let's see here. Let's see. I want to look at my notes again. Sorry, folks. Yeah. And they're also stating, that North Pole is shifting. It's all based on NASA. Okay. So I hope that I've shown you some interesting back and forth, right? Here I'm going to take you in a different direction. So we saw that the 1911 encyclopedia was already mentioning a precession. So my goal has been to see if this whole theory is, where it went awry, where it went wrong. And so I've been digging back in old documents. And yes, this is online, but these are pictures, photo pictures of old documents. And I'm trying to go back as far as I can to see when things, or find out when things started to be tainted with. And so I'm going back in time, and this particular item here is an almanac from 1828. So I've actually, I encourage you guys to go look at some old almanacs, because I'm trying to figure out the dates when things started to change. And I'm finding accurate information before 1850. Then from what I've seen so far, after about 1850-ish, things start getting a little awry. So here's the 1828 Columbian Almanac. And what I noticed was that this document goes through, I think this is amazing. This document goes through the motions of the luminaries for the entire year. I just took a clip of the third month because we're going to be focusing on the third month. So obviously, because that's when Aries comes into play, that's when the equinox comes into play. So if you look at all of this information, again, 1828, you go down to March 20th, guess what it's telling you? It's saying the sun, this is the symbol for the sun, is entering what? The sun is entering Aries, March 20th. Yep, it's correct. It's entering Aries, March 20th. Does it say Pisces? Nope. Here is the Prophetic Almanac, 1845. Don't mind the globe on the front. But notice up here, it was kept for city records. So this is an official document, not just an official print. This is an official document because it's stored at a city records office. That means it is stamped, recorded as official, right? Okay. Third month, March 1845. Does the same thing. There's some really exciting things on here, but let's take a look down at March 20th. What happens? Sun enters what? So in 1845, the sun is still entering Aries by 1845. You guys, I encourage you, go check this stuff out. Okay? And I just took a couple of pictures, and folks, I don't have time today, but I think tomorrow I have a post coming out. And if you're part of my calendar forum, you've already seen this, but there's something called a golden number. And I'll show you later on another day how to use this golden number. But I find this very exciting because this golden number tells you, it's a calculation, and it tells you when the first full moon of the spring will be. You do a calculation, so I'm not going to give it away right now. You do a calculation and it gives you a number. And then you line it up on your astrolabe that you guys all need. And you're going to be able to find out when the first full moon of the year is on your astrolabe just by this golden number. Like, for example, in 1845, the golden number was 3. So, again, join my calendar forum because they saw this information the other day. But anyway, this information we're seeing is accurate, right? Accurate. Okay, another confirmation that I found in the last, 2 weeks. I mean, you guys, this information has all come to me within the last couple weeks. And it was so much that I was just like, I just don't want people thinking I'm crazy, you know? I want to show you guys that I have legitimate proof here. So this is called the Astrolabes Ephemeris Tables. And I actually found someone in my calendar group who's been using these for years, he says. And he's just now correlating them. And he's real excited about how this is correlating with the astrolabe and all of that stuff too. And he says, Tina, your information's accurate. So I'm telling you guys, look at old documents. It's going to help you. So these tables are for the years. So just like what you saw in those almanacs, this is more current. And I haven't been looking at current almanacs yet. Again, I'm going backwards in time. I'm trying to find old information. And so this is on this website down here. So if you take a screenshot or come back and watch it, this is where you can find a whole list of years. I think they have, like they say, you can just go back almost infinity, as many, because they configure, it's fixed, folks. So they can figure it out and just put it in a computer program and it prints it all out. Okay? So apparently they've cataloged, I don't know, many years of the movements through the zodiacs, through the tropics, and these charts are accurate and they can be confirmed with your astrolabes. And this is what I see in the sky. So if you take a look, this is August 2019. August is, our 5th to 6th month. It's going from our 5th to our 6th month. So the beginning of August is in our 5th month, and it's going into the 6th month. So this is Leo to Virgo. And let's take a look mid-August here. I think I saw, maybe. I'm going to skip that because I'm running out of time here. I went to March 2026 just because it's the 3rd month. You go down to March 20th. Guess what's happening? Where is the sun? Here's the sun is going into, I'll get back to the golden number another time. I know I want to cover it, maybe if I have time at the end. But anyway, the sun is going into Aries 2026, folks. This is, again, published documents put together for us to know where all of these luminaries are in the year. And it's accurate. It's still saying that the equinox is in Aries. Aries, folks. Okay. All right. So, as I mentioned, if you want to be a part of the calendar discussions, you can join my calendar forum. And sometimes I'm trying to, I just started it, but I'm trying to give them inside information and we kind of chat back and forth. It's very new, but I'd love for you guys to join because I don't want to be all calendar on the fight for truth, but I want to have a special room for us to be able to discuss. And there's some people in there who've been doing calendars for longer than me, that, we can go back and forth and look at new articles and, iron sharpening iron, getting into this, trying to put back Yah's calendar and his clock, right? So if you want to be part of that forum, please do that because there are things that we can help each other out with. If you're finding old documents and you find that, it's still showing Aries as the equinox. Look, 1800s. I found one from 1900, Aries, again, way back. So, we have proof that it's still in Aries. That proof that I just showed you on that website, up to date, 2026, is showing you proof that it has not changed, or else their data would be wrong. Do you think they want to publish wrong data? I don't think so. So I really want you guys to think about this, why it matters to you, because I know it matters to me. All right, so the calendar forum. Yes, there are a few hoops that you have to jump through because recently some AI has tried to come in, and apparently the AI can now fill out forms, contact forms. And I didn't know that, but if you request to join, I'm going to show you here. I'm going to show you, hold on just a second. Let me go to my website and I'm going to show you. So here's my website. If you go to the top, usually if I log out, let me see. If I log out, let me do that. Is it going to let me? Yeah. So if you come to my website, you go up here and you log in. And if you're new, you just click on sign up with an email, or you can sign up with Google or Facebook. And it will send me a request. And I'm going to send you an email back. And I'm going to ask you some security questions. Because apparently I can't do that for this form. I can't ask security questions up front to join that right there. So I'm going to ask you a couple of things, and you have to be able to answer those things to be approved into the site. And then once you have been approved, I will send you an email to join the calendar forum. And again, you have to go through another hoop. I'm sorry, but again, I'm just trying to prevent the crazies from coming into the group or whatever. I don't even understand, but somehow, some way, things are getting through, and I don't want it to. So you can access this calendar forum, and we have chats on there. It's kind of like a social media type thing where you can message back and forth. I even have an app now. So if you don't want to go, so the way you would log in is you just go back to that login and you click your username and password and put it in. But I have an app so you can actually put it on your phone and just click on that every day instead of logging in every day. So that's really fun. But there's chats, there's you can create a profile, share a little bit about yourself, and we talk specifically calendar information. We don't talk other topics. This is specifically calendar related, and so I will make sure it's moderated, that we try to stay on topic there. And we also have to note that there's going to be people on there who are just coming into the calendar, testing it out. So there's going to be various stages, maybe people who've been on the calendar for quite some time, but we are going to talk about everything from the luminaries, the astrolabes, the lunar volvels. I'm hoping to do some chats, live chats with you guys as well. So it'll be specific for the calendar. And again, it's all free. No cost to you. It's all free. I'm not accepting money to join the forum, to download the app. It's a free app. It came free to me, so I'm going to give it free to you. And let's see here. Yeah, I think that's it, but I just want to reiterate why this matters. And I said I was going to say this at the end also, and I'm going to say it again. It matters because the calendar matters. It matters in my faith and belief in Yahweh because guess what? He gave us Genesis 1, and he told us his calendar mattered. So Genesis 1 confirms all of this information, and we just need to apply it to our lives. Why do I personally worry about calendar precessions? Because I'm tired of the lies. I don't know about you guys. And again, maybe you're just now, maybe it's finally clicking. I've been trying to push this for quite some time, and I'm going to keep pushing it because I want everyone to see you're being lied to. Now, again, test me, go outside, go outside, learn the skies, test me. Now, why this is being done, why these lies are happening, I don't know. I think my husband and I say something nefarious is in the works, and they're manipulating data. They're confusing people by giving us article after article going back and forth saying it's changed. No, it's not. Yes, it has. They're going through great lengths to let me hold on just a second. Let me come up here. Can you see me? Okay. No, you can't probably. Hold on just a second. Oh yeah, maybe you can see me now. Okay, great. So they're going through great lengths to manipulate the data that's out there. I don't know why. Don't know why. Why the lies? Why the lies? Why any lies, right? I don't have the answers. But my thinking is that the adversary knows that in these last days, there are going to be people like you and me who want to come back to the calendar, who are finding out about the Zadok calendar, and we want to come back to the truth of his word and his luminaries and his creation. And the adversary doesn't want us to find the calendar. He doesn't want it to make sense to us. So he's creating a veil. He's trying to make us confused in the process because that's his greatest accomplishment, is to create confusion among us, right? one of his greatest accomplishments. So we need to keep on track, right? And we need to start sharing this information. I don't think there's any other channel. I could be wrong, and tell me if there is another channel who's doing the same who has the same information. We need to collaborate, because I don't know anybody else who's on this same track. And so what I'm telling you is based on my research, putting this all together, and that's why I think that people look at me like, you're crazy, Tina. You're crazy. Maybe I am, but I'll be the sore thumb. I will stick out because I'm a peculiar people, right? I'm gonna stick out because the calendar matters. And some people say, well, you're sticking too much, spending too much time on the calendar. Well, that's because it's in Genesis 1, right? It's important. So we need to stop the adversary, if we can, in his tracks. The lies that are being, spread all around, even in our community, is holding people back. It's hiding the true clock, right? Otherwise, we would know that the 8th month, the sun is in Scorpio. Otherwise, we would know that, the 7th month is in Libra. Everyone would know, but they don't, because the adversary hopes that we're not going to look up. He hopes that we're not going to get back on track. He hopes that we're not going to pull out our tools and, find these old things useful again. He thought he put it behind us. He put it, he shoved it on a shelf and said, they're not going to look at astrolabes anymore. Those are ancient things. We have computers now. We have data. We have, things that can go way beyond an astrolabe. Well, we probably do, but he was counting on it. And so that's why I stress the tools. Bring them back. Bring back the astrolabes and the lunar volvels. Go out, learn these things, prove this along with me. Most people won't make the effort, and that's why it's just swept under the rug every year, because people don't want to make the effort. They don't want to teach their children about this information. They don't. People don't know about it, so how are they going to teach our children? Our grandchildren aren't going to know about this if we don't step up, get back outside, and, do the good old stargazing. How about them apples? What do you think, guys? That's what I have, and, I hope that you guys are seeing what I'm seeing. And I want you guys to continue to fight for truth with me, All right, that's what I have, and so I want to take a look at the chat and see what's going on in the chat. Was anything eye-opening to you all? Yes, we are told to look up. Yep. Oh, talking about the stars not being able to be seen. We've had a lot of the fog lately, a lot of things. Yeah, there's a lot that, reasons why we can't see things. Thank you. Please help me. Please. I feel like I'm the only one. I don't want to feel like I'm the only one. I really want, I want this to make a difference. And yeah, you guys need to get the calendar back. And I'm here. Again, this stuff is all new to me. I'm still new. I've had this for 2 years now, but I forget, I don't really know all of it. I don't know all the constellations. I'm still learning, but I'm making the effort. And no, I don't worship the sun, moon, and stars. I don't, I don't. But our Father created this calendar, and he said in the last days that the sons of Zadok would make a comeback. And I believe that the Zadok calendar, Enoch calendar, Dead Sea Scrolls calendar, Yah's calendar, is going to make a comeback too. Well, anything else here? Yeah, I know these astrolabes, it seems like a daunting task to learn something, especially when you're, over your 40s, 50s, 60s, and you're like, I don't really want to learn something new. It seems a little bit outside of my realm. Well, again, that's why I created the calendar forum. So I don't plan on teaching a lot of the astrolabes. I post once in a while and I give you guys links on my resources page. I have links for you to go look at some tutorials. I have an Astrolabe and Lunar Volvel playlist on my YouTube channel. I'm trying to give you guys everything that I can without sitting down next to you and showing you step by step. I have a lot on my plate, and that would take up a lot of time, but I'm trying to give you guys the resources that you can go and research it yourself, and I hope that you have the heart to do that. And if you give it effort, you can do what I do. I mean, again, I'm just learning the basics. Learn how to find out what's in the sky at night. Learn how to prove NASA apps wrong. It's very easy to do, but learn how to do it, because this information does not match Solarium. There are certain things once in a while that might match, but it doesn't match. And again, it's never going to match because they actually always have the sun in a constellation a month behind us, right? Let me take a look here. I try to teach as, best as I can. And I don't pretend that I know it all. Yes, NASA does mean deception, and they are truly a part of the veil. But we know the Father is going to tear that veil, right? Yes, 60s having to learn. Yes. All right. Yeah, there's a lot. And again, the calendar forum, we're going to cover, I hope that we'll just cover a whole bunch. I hope that it comes in handy. It comes free with my free website, by the way. It's a free website. So if you guys have a business or whatever, you just go to my website. Up at the top, it says, hey, create your own website right up here. It's free. I mean, there are certain things that you can add and make, cost money, but mine was simple and it came with a free app. And I give all of my information away for free also. The truth does set us free. And I know I made a rant this week about channels and people who are charging to share information, but it's information that I'm passionate about, so I want to share it, and it should be free. So I'm not going to charge you guys for the app. It doesn't cost me anything. You can put I can make it real exciting, but I'd have to put a paywall. The only thing I pay for is this StreamYard that costs a fortune, but it's easier than the other streaming system, but I'm not going to make you pay for it. Yes, Yeshua did not charge. Yeah. Anything, let's see, any other questions? I think that's it, folks. I know this was long-winded, but again, if you want to join that again, you don't have to participate as much on the calendar forums, just like anything. You can participate as much as you want. Maybe you just want to see some things here and there. But it's specific, so we can talk freely amongst ourselves and not, not have anything interfering. Just focus on the calendar. All right, folks. Well, I hope you are all enjoying what I have brought, and man, go back and look at some of these old things. Pretty excited. All right, you guys, be blessed and have a great evening.